Right, check, check, 1, 2, looking good. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Eric, and that is Chester. And today we're going to try to teach you a little something that I think is going to help a lot of people out. First off, I got to say, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm not telling you how to treat, triage, or make any medical decisions for that matter. This is purely for educational purposes. All right, so now that I got that out of the way, let's get into it. If you're using any of these GLP-1s or a peptide-based compound for weight loss, for example, semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, doesn't matter. This video is going to actually help you out because the concept we're going to cover today is the same across all of them. We're going to talk about half-life and how it affects drug concentration in your body and why your dosing decision matters more than you're probably realizing. So today we're going to use retatrutide as an example. It's the most popular peptide right now, and it's the most aggressive option in the GLP-1 class, and it makes the point clearly. So a common mistake that I see, people, maybe they're not getting the results they want fast enough, especially in that first couple of weeks. So then they decide to double their dose, or they just jump up too quickly. This leads to nausea, fatigue, vomiting, and in serious cases, stomach paralysis. So this is what happens when you spike your peak concentration before your body has had a chance to adapt to it. And so this isn't really just people freelancing bad decisions. Some of this is coming from people who are actually doing research and they're looking up the clinical trial titration schedule and they're assuming that that's the gold standard. But here's what the retatrutide Triumph phase 3 trial looks like. They start them out on 2 milligrams, which already is too high of a dose. Then they go to 4 milligrams at week 5, 6 milligrams at week 9, 9 milligrams at week 13, 12 milligrams at week 17. So every 4 weeks, the dose goes up, and it goes up significantly. But here's the problem with it. With a 6-day half-life, it takes your body nearly a month to reach stable peptide levels in the blood. So in the trials, they're escalating it every 4 weeks, which means people are bumping the dose before they've even stabilized on the previous dose. The schedule in the clinical trial exists to generate regulatory data across those dose ranges within a fixed timeline. It's not a roadmap for how an actual person should take this peptide. So to understand why any of this matters and why your dosing decisions have such an impact, you need to understand what half-life actually means. Because most people have it wrong. I'm seeing it all the time. People who think that because retatrutide has a 6-day half-life, that the peptide will basically be gone in 12 days. That's not how it works. Half-life means the concentration in your blood drops by half, not to 0. And since you're redosing before the previous dose clears your system, the peptide is stacking week over week. Let me show you what that actually looks like on the drawing board. I'm going to put this basically into a graph so that you can see how your dosing and half-life actually works. All right. So we're just going to get a chart going here. And my bottom row here is going to be in weeks. So here's week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Over here, this is going to be milligrams. This is going to be the concentration that's actually in your bloodstream as we go through here. So we'll do 1 milligram right here. We don't need to go much higher. 2 milligrams here, and we'll say 3 milligrams is here. Okay. So for this example, we're going to go through 1 dose, and that's it. I'm just going to take 1 injection on week 1 and no more. And let's just see how your body processes it over time. So week 1, I'm going to take that dose of 1 milligram, right? I'm going to have this much in my bloodstream initially, and as we get to that second week, I'm going to have half, right? Remember, half-life is around 6 to 7 days. So in 1 week, we'll have half of our initial dose, which will be 0.5 milligrams. In week 3, you guessed it, it's going to be half of 0.5. So it's going to be 0.25 milligrams. Week 4, this is going to be 0.125, right? And then week 5, half of 0.125, what is that, 0.0625, right? Right. And we'll just say at this point, we've gotten the majority of it out of our system. And that's if I just take one dose. All right. Now, you can kind of see where the issue is, right? If I'm going to take 1 milligram every week, I'm actually adding the residual from the week prior to the dose, and that's what my concentration in my bloodstream is going to be. So let's see what that looks like. So week 1, okay, we're going to that 1 milligram dose. This is how much we got in our system, obviously, on that first day. And then as we go through in that second week, because the half-life is 7 days, I'm going to have half of this initial amount on week 2, right? This is going to be my residual dose. I'm just going to shade that in, right? So this is going to be half. That's my residual that's left over. But on week 2, I'm taking my milligram dose again. So I'm going to add 1 milligram to this, and that's going to put me at 1.5 milligrams in my bloodstream on week 2 when I take that second dose. Let's go to week 3. So how much residual am I going to have in week 3? Essentially half of 1.5, which is going to be 0.75, right? So this is residual, 0.75. And then, of course, we're going to take our 1 milligram dose, which is going to take us up to 1.75. So you can see week 3, when I take that milligram dose, I'm actually at 1.75 that's in my system because of the residual from the previous doses. All right, so let's go one more. So for week 4, let's get our residual. Half of 1.75, that's going to be, what is that going to be? 0.875, right? So it's going to be 0.875. And then we're also going to take our dose. So after we take our dose, we're going to have 1.875 in our bloodstream. Now let's go to week 5. Half of 1.875, it's going to be 0.94, something like that. 0.94. I'm going to add my 1 milligram, and I'm going to have 1.94. Now, at this point, we're actually at a steady state for our dose because it's basically going to essentially be the same as we get going here. Week 6, it's going to look something like this. Just slightly, pretty much the same dose, but just slightly higher. It's going to be like 1.97, I'm guessing. But it's going to be something like that. And essentially, we have at this point, at week 5, 6, 7, 8, we're at a steady state, what they're going to call a steady state for your dose. And it would look something like this. Let me see if I can get a different marker here. So right now I kind of have bar graphs here, but let's say it was a line. Like this is a line chart here. So we're starting here on week 1, we're at 1 milligram. As the week goes down, right, into week 2, we get to that half a milligram. We take our dose, this spikes up, and then we come down, we take our dose, it spikes up. It comes down, we take our dose, it spikes up, and it continues on. So you can kind of see from week 1 to week, let's say 4 or 5, you almost have twice the dose than your actual dosage. You have almost twice the dose going through your bloodstream, that is, right? So this is very important to understand because there's so many people that they, on week 1 and week 2, they might start at a half a milligram or 1 milligram like this, and they don't really have any effect. And then they just go ahead and they double it, right? And then on week 3, instead of adding 1, they're actually adding 2. And it could potentially be really bad. And if you aren't getting to this steady state ever, then you're constantly adding and increasing your dose, and you're just going to keep going up and up and up. All right. So if you follow the clinical trial, it's going to be a bad news for you. So when you get to the steady state, that is kind of like, what that dose is going to be for you, if that makes sense. I don't know. Hopefully this clears it up a little bit. Hopefully you can even see this, the line here. But I think you can understand, right? So that is half-life in a nutshell. All right. Now this is 7-day half-life. Some of these peptides are 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Obviously it works the same, just in a much shorter time frame. So anyways, hopefully this visual representation helps. Hopefully you can see this on the board here. A little bit of glare. I need some better stuff. But anyways, here we go. So now that you understand how this actually builds in your body, let's talk about what this means for you. If you're feeling pretty rough the first day or two after your injection, nausea, fatigue, just feeling a little off, you can't eat. And then towards the end of the week, you hit a nice sweet spot where you feel really good. Your hunger's suppressed and you don't have that nausea. Pay attention to that. It's almost certainly a peak problem. Your dose is probably higher than your body needs right now. And the fix isn't really to just push through it. It's to consider whether a lower dose might be the right answer for you. And then on the flip side, you might feel great right after your dose. Your energy is up, your appetite is suppressed just enough, everything's clicking. But by the end of the week, your hunger starts to creep back and you find yourself in the pantry looking for some snacks a little bit more than you'd like. Now you feel like you're losing a little bit of ground. If you're already dialed in on the fundamentals, a small conservative dose increase might be a good answer for you. And then for the people who are really sensitive to the peaks, there's another option worth knowing about, and it's called split dosing. Instead of one weekly injection, you split your dose and you take it twice a week, or maybe even 3 times a week. And what that does, it flattens the curve so that your peaks are a little bit lower and your troughs are a little bit higher, and the swings become much more manageable. Your steady state concentration stays closer to the same, and you're just getting there with a smoother ride, if that makes sense. So this is about understanding what's actually happening in your body so that you can make a smarter decision. Be careful out there. I wouldn't double your dose. I wouldn't follow the clinical trial. Your dosage is going to be totally different than what my dose is or what the next person's dose is. We're all so very dose dependent when it comes to these GLP-1s. You have to do a little bit of experimenting for yourself to figure out what works the best. So that's all I've got. Stay strong, stay in a fight. I'll see you in the next one.